Hey, I'm Tron, and this is Word, the slow Bible read advancing one chapter ahead every day. Now it is Exodus 12, 51 verses long. New beginnings start here. The Israelites will commemorate what the Lord has done for the soon-to-be freed nation by starting the calendar year celebrating Passover. A male lamb must give his life for each family and his blood smeared on the doorposts of the home. The whole animal must be eaten up or burned up entirely before morning. The memorial meal is to be eaten fully dressed and ready to leave, like on the night before the Hebrews left their captive country. Bread without yeast is to be eaten with the meat, and no yeast is to be found in the home during the commemoration. Moses instructs the Israelite elders about what is to happen in verse 23 to have them prepare for the departure. For the Lord will pass through the land to strike down the Egyptians. But when he sees the blood on the top and the sides of the doorframe, the Lord will pass over your home. He will not permit his death angel to enter your house and strike you down. The night to come is to be remembered perpetually by God's people. The angel of the Lord goes through Egypt and dispenses God's judgment on the country by taking the lives of all firstborn sons of man and animals alike. Every household not protected by the blood of a lamb is affected. Pharaoh has reached its breaking point and summons Moses and Aaron in the middle of the night to his palace in verse 32. Take your flocks and herds, as you said, and be gone. Go, but bless me as you leave. After losing it all, Pharaoh wants to be blessed by the one who he defiantly stood up against and would not submit to, even after 9 previous showdowns. The cause of his calamities needs to leave. And Pharaoh's Egyptian subjects feel the same way about the Hebrew people leaving in verse 36. The Lord caused the Egyptians to look favorably on the Israelites and gave the Israelites whatever they asked for. So they stripped the Egyptians of their wealth. With the parting gifts in place, the children of Israel leave in the direction God is leading, on a journey that eventually will prove his faithfulness to them more than their trust in him. This is their first steps in verse 37. The night the people of Israel left Ramesses and started for Sukkoth, there were about 600,000 men, plus all the women and children. If we want to know how many people were actually making the exodus from Egypt, I'll have to make a few assumptions. There were 600,000 men, meaning males over 20 years of age, old enough to fight. Usually in a general population, there is about a 50-50 split between genders. But this was an Egyptian slave population. Men were first of all pushed to the limit more and died more frequently than their female counterparts as a result. Secondly, the extermination policy that Moses had escaped went on for a while. The Egyptians must have reversed themselves at some point in the past 80 years because of the need for manual slave labor. But even so, it would have had a significant impact on the male population number. Conservatively, I think we could easily say there was a minimum of 10% discrepancy between the genders. But it could be as much as 1 man to 2 women. But assuming a fairly conservative number of 20% more women than men, we would have 720,000 women over 20 years old, bringing the total adult population to 1,320,000 people. And there were kids too, the people under 20. About a third of the current world population is under 20. Projecting that back to the Israelite populace would be 435,000 individuals. But the Lord had blessed the child count of the Hebrews, so the number could be much higher than that. So frugally speaking, I think we are looking at least 1.75 million souls making the trek across the desert out of Egypt. Many assumptions, I know, but certainly not outside the realm of the plausible. God has multiplied the 70 descendants of Israel that entered the country only a few generations earlier in verse 40. The people of Israel had lived in Egypt for 430 years. The Lord kept his promise to his people in verse 42 by doing what he said. On this night, the Lord kept his promise to bring his people out of the land of Egypt. So this night belongs to him, and it must be commemorated every year by all the Israelites from generation to generation. No bones must be broken on the sacrificial lamb. And on the way, Moses and Aaron tells the Hebrews how they must commemorate, and will take a detour instead of the shortest route back to Canaan, the land of promise, tomorrow in Exodus chapter 13. Until then, word.